Yo, 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 what's up, man? What's up?
Not much, man. Not much. Running on about an hour, maybe hour and a half of sleep. So fumes, but
Yeah,
that's good though. This is giving me a little bit of something, a little bit of last minute juice for the day. So assuming I can sleep tonight, everything will be good. If
that's
I don't get sleep again, then we get shaky ground.
right. Well, hey, people coming up in the building. Shout out to my T Smooth TV, Carlos Holloway. You know what it is. Texas bred Cowboys 83 was good with you. Ethan is an Armitage. If that's the name, if I said it right, was good. Jump on in the building. Hey, DDP's tired. I'm tired because I almost fell asleep. I thought he was gonna be mad at me because I didn't set my damn alarm. I was gonna oversleep because I kept looking at the time like, don't go to sleep, dog. Don't go to sleep.
Right,
Because
right.
if you go to sleep and you don't set this alarm, you ain't getting up, bro. So we doing the on the fumes thing today. So this ain't gonna be a long show. So get that in your head.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, little Miss DDP did not sleep last night, so
Mm-mm-mm.
little
I
one
used to remember
doesn't.
them days.
Yeah, little one doesn't sleep. You don't really
Nobody
sleep.
does.
Yeah, man, that shit was like 3.5 hours. And I ended up sleeping on the nursery floor just so she would chill out. Like
Mm.
I don't know what triggered it, but good God, that floor is not comfy. I'll tell you that. When I finally did wake up this morning, felt like I had been sleeping on like a slab of concrete. Like my whole body hurt, and I was just like, oh, cool. Let's go start the day. And then it ended up being a hectic work day. So it's just like, yeah, fumes. But you know what? Like I said, this is a little bbit of positive charge for me. So it's a good way to close out the day with a good note.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, like I said, man, it's you're going through things that I've already been through, been there, done that. I'm glad I'm not doing that again. Uh, Props to you for right now for understanding and getting all that goodness. But me, I loved it, but I don't miss it. If you understand what I'm saying, I loved it, but I don't
Yeah.
miss it. So
Yep. It's definitely a challenge, but it's a good challenge most of the time.
mm-hmm. But let's talk about
But
this challenge with these Mavericks, dog.
yeah. I also wanted to plug from this weekend. So
Oh
I
yeah,
ended up
yeah,
in
yeah.
a last. I've been talking with these guys for a long time trying to set up this thing, but my schedule is hectic, man. You know that. Like there's a reason why we settled into like this kind of groove Wednesday nights, but anything else extra is a difficult thing to set up because my schedule is just chaos. But I've been talking with Glow Mavs. Their channel is called Glow Mavs, GLO Mavs.
Mm-hmm.
Their show is just We Talk Mavs, and they're a bunch of guys that actually came up watching like Dallas Prospect and things like that. Now they're doing it themselves. And so it was really weird because I've been talking with them about jumping on since last postseason. Like I think it was like the first or second round we were trying to figure it out, but they were doing live shows after every game, which huge respect to them. If the timing had worked out differently back when I was doing that, I would have been doing the same thing. But my life
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't really work with that kind of sleep schedule anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
jumped on with them this weekend, and it was very humbling to hear like, oh yeah, they watched your channel first. Like I think they like legitimately referenced me as like Godfather at one point. I was like, whoa, hold on now. Like I know the tagline says every legend, but like I don't think of it that way.
Right.
So kind of cool. But they know their shit, man. Like it was a really good Mavs talk. Great Mavs roundtable. Also had Bibbs there if you are active in Mavs Twitter at all.
Mm-hmm.
Bibbs legit in that respect too. Like he's had on his podcast Jeff Skin Wade as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of good insight and knowledge there. Any was on with us, and TGK TV, I think is his name. I'm not as familiar with his work, but he had some good stuff as well. So it was cool. It was just kind of a season preview and just kind of talking about the next step and the perception and everything. And it was one of those times. Sometimes you get on a round table with guys that you know a little bit about, and you're kind of like, maybe it'll be all right, maybe it'll be fine. You probably get one or two guys where you're like, he's kind of out there, or a little homerish. I generally thought this was a very, very well thought out and informative talk. So, highly recommend it. Check it out on Glow Mavs, and if you haven't already, subscribe to them. I'll plug it after working with them a little bit and watching some of their stuff previously. I can vouch for it.
Nice. That's good. I'm gonna make sure I check it out. I remember seeing it. You had posted on there, and I wanted to be able to check it out, but I hadn't got a chance to.
Yeah.
But good. Thank you for the knowledge with that, and I will be able to go ahead and actually look at it myself. I feel what you're saying about sometimes you get on with a group, you don't really know what it's about, you don't really know what the action is going to be with the people,
Mm-hmm.
so you kind of maybe kind of play it close to the vest kind of in the beginning.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, you find out, okay, these guys is this is legit right here. So then you kind of maybe come out. I don't know. I maybe come out of my shell a little more and then get a little bit more open when I feel like it's going to be a real good talk. So that's a good thing to happen for you. And make sure you get that plug in after we get done, so a lot of people in the feed can know everything about it. And just a shout out to a few more people: Michael Autry, Craig English. What's up with you, boo thing? We know what's up with you, girl. And everybody keep on coming in the building. We about to talk, like I said, Jeffrey Smith just jumped on in here. Mavs talk. Of course, we're talking Cowboys. They got a nice little 3-game win streak. But let's talk about these Mavericks right quick because they're playing right now. I'm actually looking at the game while we're talking. But let's talk about these Mavericks, dog, because season's right around the corner and preseason's been popping, and this is their first preseason game.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys that they're resting. You don't have Luka. You don't have, man. It was like 3 or 4 guys you had here. Your starting lineup: Dorian
Tim
Finney-Smith,
Hardaway Jr.
Hardaway Jr. Well, yeah, I'm not
McGee.
surprised about that one.
Right.
McGee, yeah, that was another one. But you got Dodo, Bullock, Dinwiddie, Green, and Powell basically as your starters. And so you got both of your 3-and-D guys. Dinwiddie, that's I think a good one, especially with him having kind of the more enhanced role. I think it's good for him to get a little bit of that early burn, especially because it's like, if you're going to be the secondary creator for us, and that was kind of the case before, but like he was 2A to Brunson's 2. So it's like, now it's like, okay, it's you. Luka's not out there. Let's kind of get in the flow of doing this. But it's also preseason, doesn't mean a whole lot. It's almost more just like kind of finding a little bit of conditioning and rhythm as they play in Oklahoma City. I think they're actually in Tulsa playing the game, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, against the Thunder here. And I've said it for a couple of years, Thunder have a very fascinating like collection of young players.
Oh man.
And they have so much draft capital that like whenever they're ready to go for it, they can do virtually whatever they want to acquire a superstar in a trade. And with the young pieces they have, with a little bit of that seasoning, they could very quickly, like, as much shit as they get for like their rebuilding strategy, which hasn't even, they were, the one season they had Chris Paul, they were a 5 seed in the playoffs and took Houston to Game 7. So it's like, it's 2 years they've been down, and people talk about them like they haven't done anything in forever. It's really weird. Like they've been almost a black eye for tanking. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Speaking of which, if you watch all the hype and everything with the game last night with the top 2 prospects going at it from this upcoming draft, we're going to see tanking like we've never seen across the league, because both of those guys put on such an insane show that there's no chance you're not going to have multiple teams like, you know what, let's lose every possible game we can just to slightly improve our odds. Like once we're generally out of the running, let's just go for it. So yeah, OKC, interesting team. They're always going to be a question mark until they're ready to pull that trigger though. But Dallas, for who you got playing, nice to see them play. Curious what they can do moving forward though once these games get a little bit more serious.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I've actually got to watch a little bit of it. We understand it's preseason. We understand what preseason is about. But like you said, I think it's good for Dinwiddie. I think he needs to get much burn as he can at the preseason as the playmaker, as the point guard, so he can get familiar with that team and what he's going to be doing. Because he, like you said, he's going to be the guy outside of Luka, and we need to understand what he's going to do, because we saw toward the end of the season how he struggled a little bit. I felt like, you saw the video, you had the video, and he was talking about how his leadership and things like that, and how he's kind of coming into it with the other guys. But the biggest thing with me is you having a full offseason with the team. And I think that bonding and you just be able to get familiar with those guys, I think it'll be a better year for him. So far, so good. I know obviously it is preseason, but he's got 9 points. 3 assists, a couple steals, couple boards. He's good in transition. It was setting up the offense pretty well. Don't like he had 4 turnovers. A couple
Yeah.
were silly turnovers. But I did like how he was controlling the offense, running the pace of the offense, and just continued to do his thing as far he was 50% from 3-point range. He got Dwight Powell, getting into the hole, dumping it off to Powell so Powell can get easy shots, and he was getting fouled underneath because of the penetration. So I like what he was, and I also liked how Josh Green was aggressive. We know he still needs to work on his jump shot, but he was taking it strong to the hole, and I like that. And I like his athleticism, so hopefully he can fill out a role more so this year.
Yeah.
And remember I was telling you a couple other people that kind of stood out to me in this scrimmage. Well, I said scrimmage. Well, that's what it kind of is. But Christian Wood, we were talking about him, our guy, right, coming over. And this was the guy that's going to be coming off the bench, right? Well, if you look at his numbers, right now already, the highest minutes guy is Dorian Finley, right? But
Yeah.
Christian Wood is pretty much like right behind him at 15 minutes. So remember we were talking about he's coming off the bench, but he's pretty much going to be getting those starter minutes. And you can already see it unfold right now where you saw the starting 5 and his numbers coming right off the bench. He's pretty much like the starter. And he's already got 9 rebounds, has 7 rebounds at halftime. He was active on the defensive boards. Had a few fouls, got to get a little bit better defensively. But I like how he was getting active on the boards and attacking those. And then remember, I was talking about the young rook that they got, Hardy, man. I really like him. I know he didn't score points like they scored 3 points, but if you just really watch his flow in the game, his slithery athletic ability, you can tell he's going to be able to drain those 3-point shots. I'm excited. I think that's a steal in the draft for the Mavericks. Once he really gets accustomed to the NBA, I think he's going to be a great playoff to Luka and the team.
Oh, for sure. Couple points to bounce off what you were talking about there. Look for a big step forward for Josh Green this year. His work in the offseason. I don't know if you caught any of the fan jam, which was like the Mavs team scrimmage, the white versus blue. Immense leaps forward he's taken, and we were talking about this on the podcast this past weekend. It's really something where we know Rick Carlisle and young players. He doesn't really give them a chance. Luka was the only guy to ever really be able to force his hand. Even Dennis Smith Jr. the year before in a team that won like 23 games got like 18 minutes a night, 19 minutes a night. He did not get consistent minutes. And so what was effectively Josh Green's rookie year was actually last year, the first year with Kidd, the first year someone was actually kind of developing him. And these players that have this high ceiling, but they're kind of low risk, high reward for the most part. These guys with the potential to get there, but their floor might be lower, but their ceiling is also high. There have been several guys we've seen like that come through with Carlisle in the last 10 years, and none of them worked out. Roderick Beaubois, a great example of that. But you also have other guys in there. Ricky Lito, another one that was a fascinating prospect, but never even sniffed close to his potential with Carlisle. And so last year was essentially Josh Green's rookie year, the sequel. And this is kind of that first opportunity now, because Kidd has shown a bit of a knack for developing these young players. And now in year 2, we're seeing a lot more confidence, which he had none of in the postseason run last year. A lot more confidence from Josh Green, a more aggressive, assertive way. You see kind of the nickname Bibbs gave him that I actually love. And as soon as he said it, it like locked into my brain. He calls him Sugar Glider. Just kind of the way he moves and everything, and his general kind of vibe and everything. Like, love that nickname. Definitely going to be thinking about that. Like, that's going to stick with me as a reference point. But yeah, he looks like he's ready to take a huge step forward, and his teammates have been raving about him in the offseason. You know, they're leading in obviously now with camp and everything. Huge for him. As for Hardy, yes, huge steal. Had they not pulled off the Christian Wood trade, which was pick 26, they were going to try and get Hardy if he fell, because there were still questions that he might be in the 17 range. So not only did he, you pull off the Christian Wood thing, it's like, all right, well, we didn't get our guy. We would have taken him at 26 if he fell, but whatever. Well, then he somehow falls to 37, and they're like, yeah, you know what? Trade back up. Let's get back in this mix, and let's go get him. He's there. It's unprecedented that he's there for what we expected. So yes, and by definition, essentially, he is a steal because you got him for absurd value. You got Christian Wood and your guy that you would have taken at 26 for a second round pick effectively and a bunch of spare parts that weren't going to play on your team this year anyway. That is phenomenal value. But he's one of those guys that the offensive game might take a little time. He's a little raw, but the traits, the skills, all of it's there. And he's got someone that kind of like Josh Green, I think can actually develop him a little bit and show a little more patience to give him that opportunity. Because with Carlisle, man, you mess up, you're in the doghouse. You're on the bench. There's a reason it took Brunson a long time to really step out, and it wasn't until Kidd came in that Brunson really stepped out. Think last year's playoff run, or sorry, 2 years ago playoff run against the Clippers, Brunson's first postseason. The last 3 games of the series, he barely got off the bench. Excuse me. Wow. He barely got off the bench. Last year, then, with Kidd, he is the second best player far and away, and in record time goes from a guy that was kind of a sixth man to $100 million contract, basically in the span from January to July. In that 7-month run, he goes from a discussed sixth man of the year prospect to here's a $100 million contract, has one of the biggest free agents available. It's impressive. So there's a lot to like with Dallas, and some of their young guys, I think, have an opportunity now to reach some of their potential and actually contribute in a bigger picture than previous regimes have kind of allowed for.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting thing. We're always excited about young players, at least I am. I always love watching young players, that's one of the reasons why, hey, the Cowboys are exciting to me, because they have all the young players, and that's what their pipeline is. Their pipeline is not through free agency. Their pipeline is not getting free agents outside. So you really have to focus on the draft with the Cowboys. So you really have to learn to love it, because that's what they do. But when you look at the team, it's a very exciting team because all these young players are playing crazy, and you're looking at it like, well, damn, they ain't the 27, the 28, the 29-year-olds. They're the 21s, the 22, the 23s. And when you look at a foundation that can be built, it's always exciting because it's plentiful, because you love watching young players because they can do so many things for you. And just like you said, when you look at Josh Green and then when you look at Hardy, I see both of those guys. Like you said, I've already noticed the leap already. With Josh Green, like I said, I've seen a lot more aggressiveness with him, a lot more confidence already. He's like more sure of himself. He's not hesitating. He wasn't hesitating when he got the ball. He was assertively taking it to the hole, and that's what we want to see with him. And like I said, I love his he had a nice little bounce with it, was playing good defense. But like you said, Hardy is hella green, and I know it's going to be some time. So, I understand that, but I can't lie. I'm gushing on the inside just looking at him saying, that was a good pick by the Mavericks. Great job on that one. Y'all, I think y'all really hit that one. And once he really gets incorporated, he's really going to help the team, especially with the athleticism. You'll be seeing him coming. Hardy with another one. You know what I'm saying, dog? I'm kind of excited about that. And then I'm really excited about the Christian Wood thing. We'll be able to see JaVale McGee and those guys eventually come in, DDP. But Christian Wood, I like what he's doing already. I know it's preseason, but I like the activity. You know what I'm saying? Because you got him for a reason. 7 points, 11 rebounds already. I like that. That's what we want to see, because that's what you got, right? You wanted a double-double guy. You wanted a guy that can really help you on the inside. You want a guy that can really help on the boards, and y'all couldn't get decimated on boards. And this is what you're seeing. Him and Powell are playing good together as a 1-2 combo. And then when you see JaVale McGee coming in with that length, that gets you a little excited, DDP, because for the first time in a while, it seems like now Dallas got some length to challenge people when they go to the hole. It's not going to be an easy go to the hole because we have so many 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guys. Now we got some length, and now it's going to be good to be able to challenge people defensively.
Yeah, and in some respects, Christian Wood is kind of like running back what you thought you were going to get with Porzingis, but just didn't. And so that's a point of interest, although he brings more athleticism to the table, like the idea of getting someone that can kind of help with that rim protection a little bit. Not that he's a great defender, but he can block shots and use his athleticism to his advantage. And just a guy who is just such a mismatch and so difficult to contain offensively. Bouncing back to, you referenced earlier the podcast with Spencer Dinwiddie. The takeaways from that, the clip specifically that it came from, he basically was talking with Theo Pinson and another guy there with Dallas talking about him coming in last year. And what I liked about the interview was kind of what it implied about Dorian's leadership, Dorian Finney-Smith's his leadership with this team. Dinwiddie, the first few games, was a little bit passive with Dallas. It wasn't really until game 3, game 4 that he kind of started to assert himself. The first couple games was like, 8 points, 3 of 6, 7 shooting, not really aggressive, just kind of deferral. And Dorian came up to Spence afterwards, and he was just like, dude, where's that guy that I couldn't guard in Brooklyn? Like you torched me for 2 years anytime we matched up. Where is that guy? What are you doing? And Spencer's like stock had kind of dropped down, and he was called a problem child essentially with the Wizards, and it definitely got to him a little bit. Like he kind of stepped back and was like, all right, look, I don't want to rock the boat. You've got a pretty good team. You're going to be in the playoffs. That's great. I don't want to be having people point and say that I'm the problem. So I'm just going to kind of fit where I fit and just kind of go with the flow. And Dorian recognizes that, like, nah, man, like if Luka and JB aren't taking it, go fucking get yours. Like, go do it. I'm not out here guarding LeBron so you can not take shots when they're there. And like that was like what really Spencer says in the interview, what really like got through to him, kind of like, oh, okay, so you're like acknowledging like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take the hardest assignment, but I'm doing that so that you can go kick their ass on the other end. I'm not doing that just so you can be deferral and not aggressive. So really, really cool there. I like what it says about Dorian's leadership for sure. There's no doubt he is a major foundational piece for them at this point, and he's earned every cent that he's gotten from Dallas. Like a great. We talked about Carlisle not having a lot of development success stories. Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleba are two of them for sure. Undrafted guys that have been very good, serviceable players. Dorian especially at this point. So cool there to see that, and that mentality is going to be even bigger for Spencer now. Like now it's not, JB's not here anymore, so now you got to go get yours. You got to be aggressive. You got to be the guy creating with Luka, without Luka, whatever. Like you got to help make it go because there's a greater importance on you. Yeah, Christian Wood's going to help with some of those buckets and points and everything, but you got to create for him. You got to help set some stuff up. So really, really interested to see where they go with that.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting. But when I look at the team, I think it's a good team. It's still when I look at the team, it's going to be a good team. We talked about probably won't be jumping out the gate. Probably might have some little struggles, but I think they'll just be trying to find themselves as far as acclimating the new players, Luka and such like that. But I think that's going to be good. They're going to have another good year. And just like you said, I think the biggest key is coaching, man. Coaching in here too. You got to have talent, but you got to have coaching. And just like you said, Rick Carlisle, if you did something early, you were in the doghouse. He yanked you, take your confidence, and then you're kind of worried about when you come in the game not to make a mistake. And then it becomes a mind game with you when you're playing the game. And here where we see it, Jason Kidd has a different dynamic where he kind of lets these guys get some tick, especially these young guys. That builds confidence, and that allows to help your team because you're going to probably need those guys later down the line. You know what I'm saying? So best to get these guys early, best to get these guys some good reps and incorporate them in how you do it. So like I said, I loved the Jason Kidd addition when they hired him. I was glad they brought him in the building. I'm just excited to see what they're going to do year 2 with him and how it's going to really all turn out. But in this game, like I said, I'm liking some things already from a few of the additions, and we'll see how it goes going forward.
For sure. Let's bounce over and talk some Cowboys.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah. So first thing I wanted to touch on, Michael Gallup makes his season debut coming back from, I knew he came back quick from an ACL relative to what it used to take for a guy to come back from that. I legit forgot that it was early January. I would have guessed it was like December at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not that that's a huge difference, but it's crazy that he's back in the same calendar year. And had a pretty nice return, like 2 catches, 24 yards, but he gets a touchdown as well. Washington had just taken the lead finally, took a 7-6 lead after a nice drive, and then Dallas responds immediately, capping it off with a Gallup touchdown. And it's just Cooper rolls out to his right. Gallup extends the play, runs to the corner of the end zone, and nice pass, puts it on the money. Like it's really nice. So I'm curious what your general thoughts are. Him back in the mix, how you thought he looked and everything, and how that's going to kind of help the offense because the defense has been phenomenal. It's only given up. The defense has only given up about 15 points a game right now.
Mhm.
The offense, they're winning, but it's largely because of what the defense is making possible for them. So I'm curious what you
Mhm.
think Gallup's return could kind of mean for the offense that's been a little stagnant, shall we say.
I think it makes it a little bit more steady, a little bit more explosive, especially when Dak Prescott comes back. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the biggest key when Dak comes back, and then you have a CD Lamb, then you have a Michael Gallup, and then James Washington will be coming around the bend here soon. And then Noah Brown, he's been playing phenomenal, right? So I
Yep.
think that's the biggest thing. Noah Brown stepping his game up because that helps the whole receiver room, especially when you have the young rookie Jalen Tolbert. Basically, he can't smell the field right now, and he's
Mm-hmm.
been a major disappointment as a third-round pick, especially with a lot of expectations that they have for him. So getting Gallup back in, the way he did, and I'm like you. I was very skeptical. I thought it'd be October. I said he would miss a minimum 4 games now. So I at least was right on that. I didn't think he was gonna miss like 10 or 11 games, but I thought
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't be at least be back until October.
Yeah, I
So
thought
to
it'd be
see
like 6 games probably. I'm
yeah,
surprised he's already back.
I'm super surprised. And then, I was a little worried about them rushing him. He
Mm-hmm.
said he was hesitant and didn't feel like he was ready. But when you watched him out there that game, it didn't look like he had any ill effects. Like watching him, it looked like he was running good. No hitches in his run. It was smooth running.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he already came back and got a touchdown. That tells you right there how much of an impact he already had because Noah Brown went out and had a little bit of injury. Now you can slide your main guy in there, and that's a better situation, right? Instead of
Yeah.
you feeling like you had to come in with a Dennis Houston or you had to come in with a Jalen Tolbert and you had to make some plays, and those guys just ain't ready to do that. So that's the biggest thing. He's a veteran. He's been there. He's explosive, and it helps the offense, especially to be able to move the ball and get first downs and be able to stay on the field and score points. And we understand Cooper Rush. We understand he's the game manager. He's the bus driver, but they're
Yeah.
doing their thing. They're averaging 104 yards a game rushing. Obviously, it got messed up a little bit in that Washington game.
Yeah.
But when you got a defense, like you said, that's only giving up 15 points a game, actually third in the entire league across the board. In sacks, they're second in sacks. They're
Mm-hmm.
first in passing yards average
Oh yeah,
against at
we're about to get
5.5.
into the defense. Yeah.
You feel me?
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing to me. So on the Michael Gallup tip, I love it because it just is one more weapon to keep the Cowboys kind of rolling into what they maybe can do later on.
Yeah, and you mentioned Washington coming back. I'll be honest, man. I forget about him. Like I really do. He didn't get to really do anything in camp before all that happened. So I kind of forget that he's also still supposed to be coming back into the fold. All I was really seeing was the Tolbert thing and kind of feeling like you said that disappointment there for what we expected of him to do. I think we were projecting him to have a bigger rookie year than Gallup, which
Mm-hmm.
still possible, but it's certainly off to a rough start. And it
Right.
kind of made me think a little bit about another high draft pick that's been a bit of a disappointment so far. Joseph just being a guy that's kind of special teams at this point. What, second round corner?
Yeah.
Like that's a disappointment. But
And third round corner too.
yep,
Nashawn Wright.
yep, yeah. So they've had some high draft pick guys in the last couple classes that are off to kind of rough starts, but we'll see what they can end up doing with that. As for Gallup, yeah, his return is huge. We talked about how the offense, they're scoring enough. They're doing enough to win. They have not busted anything open. I know Cooper Rush is making smart plays, and people are trying to make this into some kind of quarterback controversy. It is not one. You can
Right.
take Dak's basically worst year and how the offense moves relative to this, like third down conversions, particularly. And you'll see like even Dak's rough stretch after the calf injury last year still wipes the floor with what they're doing on third down currently with Rush. It's like, hey, it's fine to say he's being a good backup for them. He's doing everything you asked of him. But to say that like this team is better off with him, I think is ridiculous. But getting him as much help as you can in the form of like Michael Gallup coming back is going to help things. And that should help CD Lamb a little bit as well. So that's what needs to be focused on here and what they need to how they need to view this. It's like it's good for Rush, good for the offense as a whole. because the offense is a step slower, let's say, than they were last year. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
the needle can presumably go higher in the future, but for right now, as it stands right now, the offense is a bit of a weak spot for this team. It's got just enough to be good, but it's the strength of the defense that's carrying things right now. And that's not to say that the defense doesn't have its Achilles heel. I can pivot straight into the next
Oh,
topic
all
with
right.
that.
Oh, all right. Know that. All right. Know that Achilles heel.
Yeah, yeah. The run D, man, it is concerning right now with
But
the.
see, before you jump on that and talk about those numbers, here's what I say about that
Okay.
run defense though. Because if you really go through the teams that they played, right, and we see the run that it was really the Tampa Bay game that really kind of hurt Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because if you look at when we played the Cincinnati Bengals, they bottled up Joe Mixon. They didn't really run the ball in that Cincinnati game. Toward the
Right.
end, they started trying to push the ball, but they didn't really run that ball against the Cowboys in that game as well.
Mm-hmm.
They only had 89 yards rushing. And then when you went against the Giants, they pretty much bottled up Saquon Barkley.
Except for one play.
That one play, he had 36-yard touchdown. Beyond that, he had like 80-something yards on like 14 carries. So when you look at that, he really didn't do anything against Dallas. I mean, he had 81 yards, 14 carries, right? But 36 of them was on one carry, right? Beyond that, he wasn't doing it. Now, Daniel Jones really got blown. Their rushing yards got blown up because Daniel Jones was scrambling for his life. He had 9 carries for 79 yards, but that's because he was scrambling. Every time he went out the pocket, he was getting rushed out the pocket. So if he didn't have that scramblability that he did, okay, they would have had 10 sacks in that game. That's a fact.
Oh,
because
yeah,
they were, you know what I'm saying? So in that aspect, the running game is a little screwed because of the pressure that was going. Now, in that Washington game, what I had said in my opinion, I'm gonna get your thoughts on it. That Washington game, it's concerning because the linebacker play of LVE. Now, when you look at the front, you feel good about Bohanna. Gallimore, the front is holding it's not getting pushed back, it's not getting blown up. But those when the linebacker's there to make those plays like the Sean Lees, when he was getting in the backfield, reading the plays, we got accustomed to that. LVE is not doing that. So I'm gonna get your thoughts on that. And two things, DDP, I'm gonna get your thoughts on, because now you heard in the chat, Damon Clark, the young rookie from LSU, is being activated, and he was already practicing, and they have a 21 day window to be able to get him on the 53-man roster, and they will. So now you got a Devin Harper who's still in the cut from Oklahoma State, young guy. You have Jabril Cox, which I don't know what the hell's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that too.
But now you got Damon Clark, who he's everything that you want in that linebacker. For everything that LVE is not doing, I believe Damon Clark can, and he can do it with the experience. So we'll see how that dynamic goes. But tell me your thoughts on those two things.
Well, yeah, I agree. The defensive front is doing well. The weakness is in that second line of defense. LVE, the linebackers have been a little bit weak there. They're not always in proper position, and that's where big plays are popping. Like, you made a good point on for sure the Daniel Jones thing skewing things, but as of the moment, the Cowboys have allowed the most explosive running plays, so plays of 10 plus yards this season. So that is something to look at. Like, I get that the defense has done so well. Has a guy thrown for 200 yards against us yet?
Only one that's done 200 was Tom Brady. He threw 212, and really he was bottled up all game for real.
Yeah. So 212. That's the high water mark so far against us in the passing D. That's insane. But the trade-off for that is you're going to usually, if you're able to shut down one aspect of it, a team is going to have to go the other direction to try and find some success against you. So Jones is going to skew that a little bit. There are some weak spots. The Achilles heel we kind of referenced a little bit with the current linebacker situation, particularly LVE. Clark is a very interesting thing because before he had the neck surgery, he was obviously projecting a much higher prospect. So you basically get him with the assumption of like, okay, well, you're going to have a guy who next year can come in and to really compete at that spot. Well, no, you're going to get him back early season. Apparently, that's a huge lift talent wise for what you're able to bring in. And yeah, the kid at Oklahoma State, that's another great example there. I'd even think about him. I was thinking just Cox and Clark in that case. So yeah, they have talent. I think they have the ability to plug some of these holes. But right now, that does feel like the thing that, like, as good as the defense has been, you have these guys, Trayvon Diggs, an even better start to this year than he had last year. He still has a couple picks, not running as wild with it. It's not like a pick every single game, but he's playing sound coverage. And a lot of guys are basically playing disciplined football. They're keeping things in front of them and making smart plays. And it's allowing them to really control these games. That's making it possible for an underpowered offense to still be winning these games, or at least hanging around. If you had a case like this past game against the Commanders, where you're up almost to like close to halftime essentially, and you're still sitting on 6 points, and you're like, man, this feels really sus, like really sus, like it only would take one drive to undo all of this. And then you got that one drive, but even after you give up the lead, you're able to then come back that next drive and answer. That's nice. But the fact that you can lean on your defense and say, like, okay, cool, Washington got the lead. I don't like their odds of getting another one of those. I don't like their odds of doing that to us again, because so far no one has been able to do that really to us. Have they? I'm trying to think, like, off the top of my head, how many total touchdowns they've given up this year. It's like 4. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. It's not big at all. If you
Yeah.
really look at the points that have been scored,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we bottled up Tampa Bay. They didn't score until the very end, and that's just because you couldn't get no offense rolling. Beyond that, you pretty much shut down the Bengals. They didn't really
Mhm.
get anything going until toward the end. And
Mhm.
then even you look at the Giants and the Commanders, none of those guys really got no kind of rhythm in that game until the end, when they kind of try to get some stuff moving. But time and time again, Dallas gets people off the field. I think they're still keeping teams under 35% on third downs on defense,
Mhm.
and that's huge. When you
Yeah.
get people down off the field on third downs, people don't talk about that enough. Third downs are big. If you can get teams off on third down and keep a percentage like that, it just continues to help your team, and it keeps everybody fresh. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and it keeps them tired. The more they got to keep that defense, got to keep coming back on the field, and that's where Kellen Moore's got to continue to be creative in that run game, and not, not just kind of stagnant, because we understand that it was a tough game against the Commanders with that front with Jonathan Allen
Yeah.
and Deron Payne. We understand that, but it's not going to get any easier with you dealing with the likes of Aaron Donald. But I feel like if he gets creative enough, we can run on them. We can
Mhm.
the Tony Pollard can run on the Rams. Yeah, I mean, just talking about going forward,
Yeah.
those things just continue to need to happen to keep Cooper Rush. And I'm going to go ahead and say this as well. My mantra this year, 30-30 club. That's what I'm throwing out there. 30-30 club. 30 passes, 30 rushes. That's what I want to see, the parameter, even when Dak Prescott comes back. 30-30 club. That's what it needs to be. So all y'all Cowboys fans out there, scream 30-30, because you've seen Cooper Rush in his starts already. He had 27 pass. He had 27 passes this last game. They had 29 rushes. In the Giants game, he had 31 passes. They had rushed the ball 30 times. That's
Mhm.
winning football for the Dallas Cowboys, because it keeps it smart. It keeps it ball control, and it takes time off the clock. You get your defense on the field. They keep them fresh, and they've got waves of guys that they got coming. You heard a lot of people in the chat. Darren Bland got his first action, a
Yep.
real live action with Jordan Lewis going out, and he already came and got an interception. We saw his ball hawking ability in the preseason, and we were all excited about him. So for him to come in the way he did, now he got torched up a little bit if you look how he got in
Mhm.
coverage, but that's okay. We like what he's doing, and he was playing in the slot. And he's 6'2", dog, running a legit 4.3. So there's waves of people, and you know what's so crazy, DDP?
Hmm.
The way this defense is playing, right? The way this defense is playing, and you ain't even getting Jabril Cox.
Yeah.
You ain't getting Kelvin Joseph, and you ain't even getting Nashawn Wright smelling the field. They're all playing special teams. Nashawn Wright being inactive. They've been playing nothing but special teams, and all those guys got talent, and they're not even smelling the field. And look how good this defense is. So
Mhm.
imagine if those guys start getting ticked, bruh, it's going to be on fire toward the end of the year, because we know before, and I'm going to say it again. I've been saying it forever. And I'm going to just say this. I'm the main guy that been screaming defense. You know that, DDP, for
Right.
100,000 years. Is defense. Defense wins champions. Defense carries. When it's muddy, when it's dirty, when it's grimy, defense is there. When it's hot, defense is there. When it's cold, defense is there. When it's red, defense is there. That's what can save you. And you ain't got to score 30 points in the game. That defense can hold you down, and you see how we doing. You can score one touchdown, a couple field goals, and win that game because that defense did it. So that's what I'm excited about.
No, absolutely. All the credit in the world to the defense. I think if there is just an Achilles heel that we need to keep an eye on, it's as long as we're having to lean so much on LVE with that run defense, because that does feel like a point of vulnerability, even if it's circumstantial, even if it's not typical, like in the case of Daniel Jones. True. But it is an area in which you are being gashed a little bit. If there's one area where the defense has been knocked back a little bit, especially the start of the Washington game, there were definitely big runs there. Like definitely things that you see and you're like, okay, we need to shore that up a little bit. So that's all I'm saying with that. The defense has been phenomenal and stellar, and it's the reason they're 3-1. It's the reason people are trying to entertain a quarterback controversy at this point when there's really not one. But it's absolutely something that if they can get in some of these other guys, if they can bring in Clark, if they can get Jabril Cox again, I don't know why he's not getting more opportunity there. If they can cycle this a little bit better, a little bit more with the rotation, lean a little less on LVE, then I think you can maybe shore up some of that. And if you can, then you basically take the one kind of concerning weakness through the first quarter of the season, not even, and you basically address it to the point where you look like a complete team, as opposed to, okay, they're good at this, but this is how you attack them because they're average or below average here. You take that away and that's it. Like, you are a juggernaut defense at that point. Last year, the run D was kind of sus too. They had the takeaways and that was great, but they had their weaknesses as well that could be exploited. And those things got exploited late in the season and in that playoff game. Early on, they're not showing those same weaknesses. That's the big thing. So I dig it. Let's
let me give him a shout out to my dog Young Wilson for the 199 holler. Been a long time. Aloha to you. That's my dog out there in Hawaii. I haven't talked to you in a while, and I think you donated like about 3 or 4 days ago. I didn't get to give you a shout out, so shout out to you, Young Wilson. Been a long time since I talked to you. Shout out to I'm glad everything is well. Aloha, everything. Appreciate you. Now go ahead, DDP. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, so we'll stay on the defense here a little bit. I referenced earlier Trayvon Diggs. Diggs is having a phenomenal start to the year. Like we both said coming into this season, like there's no way he does a double-digit pick season again. Like there's a reason it had been like when was the last time when Walls did it? Like 82
or 83. Man, it was so long I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a reason you don't get a lot of. I mean, that was 11. I think you had a guy get double digit somewhere in the interim between then and Diggs. But the point is, the odds of him matching, let alone exceeding that, wasn't high. And we know with Diggs, it's last season in particular was kind of a all or nothing. He was always hunting for the interception, and you could expose that a little bit. You could work him with the double moves. You could rack up a lot of yardage with him in coverage. He doesn't like to stick his head in there, his nose in there, and tackle. That's still kind of shown itself at times, although he did come up with a big tackle in the Bengals game.
Right. Game-saving tackle.
Yes. Huge in that point because they had just tied it up and got the ball right back. So you shut that down immediately. I think it was a 3-and-out, or maybe they got a first down before that.
No, it was a 3-and-out. It was a 3-and-out.
Okay, so yeah, huge that you stop that momentum there. It's more than that though. It's that he's playing better coverage as well. Yes, he still has a couple interceptions, which among corners, I think that's tied for second. I think. Now, yeah, he got him off of the division rivals, and we know that that's not the best quarterback play in those cases, but still, whatever. The ball's there. You got to make a play on it. And you see the one he got against Wentz. that's just him straight from snap playing the ball like he's the receiver. Like it looked like a dime to Diggs, and instead of Diggs taking the ball away. But phenomenal stuff there, and he's only allowed 156 yards in coverage. From what I'm seeing here. I know sometimes like different things grade differently. Like Pro Football Focus is like, oh well, we attribute these yards to Diggs, and other
I
sides.
go with
Says,
them. I don't care what
okay.
anybody says. DDP, we going with, because I don't. This is what I tell people when I do the Pro Football Focus. People be hating on it. Don't look at the damn grades. Look at the stats. The stats are real. The stats are. You don't care about the grade. Just look at the stats. The stats are going to tell you themselves. So yeah, we're definitely going to roll with the Pro Football Focus. And yeah, 156 is damn good.
So 156 yards allowed in coverage. That's 20, and this is as of 2 days ago. 27th in the league. So doing very well there. Much better than a guy that, depending on the particular thing, you saw like 1,000 yards attributed to him last year. Very good through four games to have basically a $150 instead, especially with some of these matchups. 2 interceptions, like I said, 6 forced incompletions. That's first among corners. 6 pass breakups, which is also first. And he had a couple of huge ones in this game. Not only does he break up a touchdown in the end zone, that's actually the thumbnail I have for this segment on it. Him breaking up the pass for Scary Terry. But he has another one as well on, I think it's a 4th down. Washington trying to wage some kind of comeback, and he breaks up another pass. Like he's making plays on the ball, and for once it's not just laying out trying to get the interception. He's making the smart play, and it's having a huge impact on his season. Like he is looking like a legit number 1 corner. Before it was kind of like, yeah, he could take the ball away, but you had the good and the bad, and sometimes they kind of canceled each other out. And especially like the playoff game, you saw like, okay, in a situation where he's not able to get the interceptions, the bad just kind of feels like the bad. Like that's all you see. And so great that he's showing that growth and development. This is from Dan Rogers on Twitter. That's someone with Blogging the Boys. Trayvon Diggs against Philadelphia has 3 straight games with a pick. Against New York, he has 3 straight games with a pick. Against Washington, he has 2 straight games with a pick. Suffice to say, Trayvon Diggs owns the NFC East. Like the quarterbacks of the NFC East, as much as the other fan bases might want to malign Diggs and try and say he's trash or how many yards he give up. He's got.
Man, I don't pay no attention to that dumb stuff,
he's got
man.
8 interceptions against your teams, the collective of your teams. In these cases, the last 3 matchups against your team, or 2 in the case of Washington. So it's like, yeah, maybe put just a little bit of respect there, especially with how he's starting out the year now. And I think it's a big reason why the defense has taken kind of that next step. Yeah, they're getting the pressure on the quarterback. You mentioned they're second in total sacks and everything. They're down in terms of interception numbers, but they are producing a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
A lot of pressure. I think they're like one of the top 2 teams in pressures. They're top in sacks. And then when you look at like I said, the defense as a whole, 3rd downs, passing yards, that's the biggest thing, because when you look at Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, they aren't fabulous corners, but that pressure up front makes cornerbacks better. You don't have to guard as long when that pressure gets to those quarterbacks quicker, and then that's when those opportunities, those turnovers happen. So I'm glad that they really got that front, because the front, you always start with the front, then the back, and then when you look at that safety room, DDP, it's crazy. Israel Mukamu's coming in there, being physical, making plays. Marquise Bell made a few tackles in that Giants game. Donovan Wilson, the hitman, been going crazy. He's probably playing
he's having a great year.
Man, he's playing like top 2, top 3 safeties in the league right now, the way he's playing. And then you still got J-Ron Curse, who been hurt, who was a heart and soul of a leader last year. And he's going to come in, and they were incorporating. Dan Quinn was incorporating last year when they were playing that big nickel, when you had Hooker, Curse, and you had Wilson in there. So I know he's going to incorporate it back in there. Israel Mukambo, like I said, somebody can take a little bit of time, but at the end of the day, DQ is doing a fabulous job mixing and matching, finding the matchups, finding the right guys. I think he just kind of sees who's kind of hot too. He starts with the starters, comes in with the backup, and then kind of see who's hot. And that's what I like about him. He see who's kind of he can roll with, finds the matchups, and then he'll throw you in there. So if you
Yeah.
weren't a guy that was getting a lot of tick maybe the first 2 games, but in this matchup you're kind of winning it, he'll let you play. And that's what I love about DQ. And like I said, it's always about defense for me. And as
Yeah.
long as you got a defense, it's always going to keep you in the game, big dog.
So showing through the first 4 games last year, Dallas had 10 takeaways and 9 sacks. This year, through the first 4 games, it's 15 sacks and 4 takeaways. So that was kind of a thing. Like everyone last year was going nuts because they're like, holy crap, look how many takeaways they've got through the first month of the year. That's true, but you could move the ball on the defense last year. And so that's kind of what people said, like, you can move the ball, you can get into position for points. It's just a matter of, can they hold you to a field goal or something? Or, Dallas, how many times are they going to be able to take the ball away relative to your ability to move the ball up and down the field? And teams that could sustain longer drives were a problem for them. That teams that could protect the ball were a problem because they couldn't really stop you unless you made it available to them. You know what I mean? Like, especially in the form of interceptions. This year, with the pressure they're generating, it's the complete opposite. You don't get to say, like, I'm just going to take this one easy. Last year, it was kind of like, all right, Parsons is a menace and you have to try and contain him. This year, his pressure level is off the charts, and it's opening things up for other guys. Tank is playing phenomenal. Obviously, he had his 3-sack game against New York. He's playing phenomenal. Dorrance Armstrong is playing really well. Like, the guys in the middle, Osa, fantastic.
Dante Fowler Jr.
Yes, Fowler. Yes, these guys are playing great, but the pressure they're generating is keeping offenses from getting a chance to play comfortable. It's making them uncomfortable, and it's making them make some of these riskier things. And it's not necessarily translating right now to a whole lot of turnovers, not the fistfuls of turnovers that we saw last year, but it feels like they're more fundamentally sound in a lot of ways. And I think it is something that, if you keep generating this measure of pressure and you have the kind of talent you do on the back end and in the linebacking core specifically, you're going to start forcing those turnovers. You know what I mean? Like, you keep punching that brick wall, eventually it's going to start breaking. And that's why I still feel like the turnovers are going to come. Maybe not in the same numbers that they did last year, but with the pressure you're forcing, it's inevitable that you're going to start forcing more turnovers. So that's the exciting thing to me, is like, as much as we look at all the really good things about the defense, there are still areas you can look at and say they feasibly are going to continue getting better, like in this way. Like, it's going to trend more favorably to them actually getting better in some of these respects.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm be excited to see how it happens. You feel me? Um, we'll see. We'll see how it keeps on going. Obviously, there's going to be, I'm not jumping up and down about beating the Washington Commanders nor the Giants. The Bengals was a
Sure.
good win, winning in the last seconds and holding them off, especially when Burrow took them all the way downfield on like a 20-play drive, and for them to win that game. And then, the Rams and the Eagles are not a barometer for me because I've seen this before, but I am going to see how these young players and the team just kind of, deals with these Rams as they get ready to come up, and the Eagles. I'm going to be in Florida out there with my guy. We do our Best of Enemies podcast every Sunday. He's a Philadelphia Eagles guy, Joe Castro. He actually lives in Florida, so we're actually going to do a live broadcast on that game. My birthday's on a Saturday. The game's a Sunday night, and we're going to do a live broadcast at this little bar. So I'm excited about that. So we'll just kind of see what's going to happen, DDP. We'll see these next couple of weeks, people saying, oh, this is where we really find out. Nah, not for me. But I do want to see how the team plays and just see how the team reacts, especially again going into Philly. I just want to see how the team really plays in that game. It's not going to really mean anything to me either way because it's the regular season. You can whoop teams in the regular season and then see them in the playoffs and get your ass kicked. You know what I mean? So that don't really mean nothing to me, dog.
Especially this early in the year. The Rams might be the defending champs, but they don't look great right now. The offense looks like it struggles, and that's fortuitous for the Cowboys defense, as we've been talking about. But we'll see. They got to put their money where their mouth is. And really, as the season wears on, as we get into like December and January, that's when you got to be playing your best football. And historically that's just not the case with the Cowboys the last 20 something years. Like it's not many years where they get to the postseason and you're like, okay, Dallas is the hot team. And even when they have had those
Right.
years, 2018, for instance, 2016 was another pretty strong run into that point. You've had those years where you have been pretty hot. You look at your record and like, okay, yeah, they've been cruising along. They should have momentum behind them, and they don't. It doesn't go anywhere, or it gets you a wild card win, something like that. They struggle to translate it in the big picture, and there's a multitude of reasons for that we always talk about. But yeah, am I going to get excited if in the next 2 or 3 weeks they win a couple games? Let's say they go, because I think Dak is probably still a week out at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Um, let's say with Rush, they're what 4-1 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thrilled they're 4-1. That's better than you could have hoped for realistically. So am I excited about that? Sure. But am I looking at the team and like already kind of like letting myself think about like, okay, now let me start thinking about like the big picture and the postseason? No, not at all. That
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to really see what this team is, like you said, until that first Philadelphia game. That's going to be kind of the reveal of like, okay, how good are they? Specifically the defense, because the offense isn't probably going to be able to give them a whole lot of help in that game. So let's see what they are, and then let's see where they are by the end of the regular season. And then even then, it's a crapshoot.
Yep. Yeah, I feel you. And like I said, we're gonna see because we're getting ready to close this up. We said a half hour. We
Yep.
almost went an hour, and then that sleep trying to kick in. But going against these Rams, this is my kind of last thoughts on it. Going against these Rams, I'm gonna kind of go what Jarrell Jones said that they struggled bad against those Niners, and the Rams gave up, I believe, like 5 sacks.
Yeah.
San Francisco was very physical with them, but San Francisco is known as a physical team, so I can't sit there and say that everybody's like, oh, if they did that against Dallas, wait, if they did that against the Niners, wait till they get Dallas. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they said that with the Commanders against the Eagles. They got 9 sacks, and they said we were going to feast. We got 2. You feel what I'm saying? Now, we were hella pressuring him, but, that doesn't apply to us. People get up for Dallas, and the Rams are not going to play that way that they get against the San Francisco 49ers. Not in my opinion. They're not going to play like that. They're going to play better than they did against those Niners. So hopefully the Cowboys don't come in there thinking, oh, we saw them against those Niners. No, they're not going to play like that. They're going to play a whole lot better, and they're going to play a whole lot better. So just get ready for it, Dallas. We'll see. I think Dallas can definitely win that game. I had them in a loss early in the season when I did my predictions. I had them losing to the Rams. But, when I look at it, I'll wait till kind of Sunday how I feel about it. But the Cowboys can definitely win that game. With the way they're playing it, the biggest thing is to get some good. Kellen Moore's got to have some good run calls. He's got to, and I think Tony Pollard's got to have a better game. He's got to get Tony Pollard more involved than he did in that game. He had like 8 carries for like 6 yards.
Right.
He's got to be a threat. He's got to be a big play threat. So Kellen Moore really, he's the key factor to me. Tony Pollard is the key on the offense in that Rams game to me. If Tony Pollard can really get off like he did in that Giants game, it's going to be really good for the Cowboys.
Yeah, you said it.
There it is.
Cool.
I like that.
All right.
That's to drop the mic, baby.
Yeah. It's hooked up. Otherwise, I'd drop it for you.
Yeah, man. So, hey, make sure y'all keep on checking it out. Like we already said, we talked a little bit about the Mavs basketball. Like I said, this is the first time we're doing dual all season, Mavericks, Cowboys. We just had the preseason game. Hey, we might be doing a couple games. You know what I'm saying? Just have some good. Well, I might not do no play-by-play, but we'll just be right when the game is live. We in DDP will just be talking about the game as it goes. So make sure you jump into that. That'll be fun as we kind of break down the game as is. So I think it'll be exciting for people to jump in it. So be prepared for that. Obviously, we're doing our Cowboys thing. So, hey, just get ready. It's going to be a good time, especially with this Basketball Incorporated. We'll really be able to break down things, and I'm excited for it. Keep on tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit the share. All that good stuff. Go. If you're not a follower of the Dallas Prospect, please go do that. If you're not a follower of Big Game James, please do that. Make sure you're following us, liking us, and get us out there as much as we can. And let's get ready for that Mavericks, Cowboys basketball. Every Wednesday we'll be talking, maybe more when we do a game here too, but it's going to be fun. Jump in there.
Yes, sir. Till next time, guys. Peace.